Hi, my name's Sophie Watson, and my interest in smart cities is in the way in which smart meters have been introduced across the country by water authorities to try and get people to reduce the number of litres of water consumption. It's very interesting looking at this because, as you might imagine, households are very different. So the way in which people use water depends very much on factors such as their gender, their age, their ethnicity, and all sorts of other factors. Often these initiatives are put into households assuming everybody will behave the same, but in fact they don't. This is what we found in our research. So, for example, we find that women who've lived through the war, for example, are very good at conserving water. Having lived through a period where there was a kind of shortage of things, they are quite happy to think about reducing the way in which they use water. They have a kind of attitude towards conservation. On the other end of the scale, young women who grew up in a culture where they're supposed to always look fabulous to go out to dates and nightclubs and whatever, tend to use a huge amount of water in the shower. So trying to get people to have 4-minute showers is really difficult when you're talking to young girls who want to kind of use all the products and all the rest of it. So that's a kind of example of how two sets of people on the same kind of gender category but in different age groups will use water very differently. Another sort of example might be where people come from. So for people who've come from countries where, like in Africa for example, where there's a real shortage of water, quite often they're very careful about their water use. So they might have what's called a bucket wash. So even though there's lots of water coming from the tap, they'll sit in their bath, fill a bucket with water and tip it over their head. So the point here is that when we think about these interventions in the home, which after all are quite complex anyway because you're going into people's private space and trying to get them to change what are kind of personal behaviours, you have to think about who you're talking to and what the impact of these policies might be on people, you know, in their behaviours in the home, which, as I said before, is a private space.